Started way back in 1993. Some of the early work was initially done by PennDOT in 2002, just to scope the project. Ever since we've been a Lebanon County Metropolitan Planning Organization, it's been on our program. It's currently programmed at about a little over $2 million. The reimbursement on the project is 80% federal, 15 state, 5% local. This project by itself takes up 17% of our capacity of our program. So it's a pretty costly project. We only get about $11, $12 million a year for road and bridge improvements. So it's a project that is fairly costly. The original purpose and scope at bullet point 5 was a replacement. We wanted it replaced so that all types and sizes of vehicles could use the bridge, especially, as Commissioner Litz knows, in emergencies. This is a bridge that sits fairly high over the water and has the potential to be used for a lot of unique purposes if and when there's flooding up and down the stream. Inwood Iron Bridge, though, has been closed to traffic almost 10 years now. October of 2005. It's hard to believe where time goes by. Well, since we wanted it to be a replacement, some things have happened. We get a new federal surface transportation law, that's bullet point 7, that now says for low volume bridges like this, you cannot use federal money to replace them. That's in the law. You can only rehab these types of bridges. That threw a monkey wrench into us. At the same time, the historic nature of the bridge was coming into existence. Mark will talk to you a little bit more about that. Commissioner Litz knows this very well. DCNR changed their plan. This was going to be the major gateway, the access point to the state park. Well, now DCNR has changed that whole concept, and they are really using Old State Road and others now for bike pedestrian use, and limited vehicle use. So for DCNR, it's a whole different ballgame as well. What Mark has been working on for a good bit of time, and I'm going to pause now and let Mark talk, has been working on a 15-ton bridge rehabilitation of Inwood, because that, as I understand, Mark, was PennDOT's standard for rehabs. You couldn't go lower than that.
Right.
Am I saying that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, I'll let you talk for a minute or two.
Yeah, a few years ago, we decided to do the rehab, go away from the replacement to go to rehab. We backed off and we said we need to rewrite a scope of work for what our engineering really is. It's not, our preliminary engineering is no longer replacement, it's rehab. So we rewrote a scope of work to address that additional work or that change in the scope of work for preliminary engineering. In that scope of work, some of the major points were that we were going to rehab the bridge to a 15-ton capacity, meeting the need of the county to have a higher capacity at that location while preserving the historic bridge. And it'll look just like the bridges out there right now. How we were going to do that, this is written in the scope of work that was submitted to the county and to PennDOT for review and approval, which it was approved, and was that we were going to take the truss apart, clean it all up, and replace the members that could not satisfy the 15-ton criteria with members that look exactly the same, made out of modern materials. And we're going to bring the truss back out and put it back together and set it back on the existing abutments. That was our scope of work that was approved. That's the scope of work that we performed. That's what our study did and showed that this is what you need to do, this is how you got to replace it. And that's when we took that study, according to that scope of work, and we submitted to the agencies for review, back to PennDOT. PennDOT's first thing was, well, that's an adverse effect. And we're like, well, wait a minute. Okay, that's not what we thought we were going to hear. We thought we were going to hear, based on the fact that you gave us the samples of bridges that you told us that this was the scope of work, and we agreed with, and we went that direction. Now you're saying what we're proposing is in an adverse effect, which creates more studies and more time involved in mitigating those adverse effects. The consulting parties and PHMC then took the adverse effect opinion from PennDOT and are saying that, well, maybe you should consider a 5-ton bridge, and maybe you shouldn't take off the abutment, and maybe it should stay there and don't take it apart. So we're getting a difference. Now we're getting agencies that are starting to steer us to a different course of action. when we already had a course of action. In my opinion, the course of action we had was the correct course of action, which is to take apart a 120-year-old bridge, look at all the pieces very closely, clean them, put back the bridge back together, and having a high level of assurance that you've got pretty much basically a new bridge. But it's a truss configuration, and you replace old members with members that need to be there to satisfy your load criteria. That seems to be the prudent and the smart way to do it. Then you know, as an owner of the bridge, and me as a designer, what we have in the field when we're done with the project. As opposed to, and what I'm seeing is a push to not do that level of due diligence on the bridge. Try to fix it in place over the creek, and try to just fix and try to find things through other testing methods over the creek in difficult situations, and try to hope that it, in my opinion, that it'll be good for 15 tons, or if you can't be sure, just let's make it a 5-ton bridge. So there's a difference of philosophy. I'm not saying one's right and one's wrong. I'm saying the more prudent thing to do, in my opinion, as the engineer, take it apart and put it back together like it was originally done 120 years ago, with a high level of assurance that we've got a good bridge and it's solid all around. We're asking the county to, yes, we agree, we want a 15-ton bridge, number one.
But we, the staff,
With the staff, that's what my
that
recommendation.
serves a transportation purpose that we think it still needs. If you put it back down to 5 tons, passenger cars, only the lightest of trucks that have 4 wheels on them can pass over it. We really think to get bang for the buck, if we're going to spend the $2 million and have this remain as a critically important crossing of Swatara Creek,
You don't have to go any further as far as I'm concerned. I'm willing to accept that recommendation unless Commissioner Ames wants more.
No, so what you're asking us to do is stand firm.
stand firm.
And not, I think that would be a help for us to say, listen, to the transportation, the MPO here at the county, the commissioners, they want a 15-ton bridge.
Mm-hmm.
We conceded to keep the historic bridge out there. It'll look exactly like it looks, it'll be a beautiful bridge. You won't be able to tell, the lay person will not be able to tell what the difference is.
I can just say, I don't want any more delays, and, if you need us to lean on people, please let
Right.
us know, because this is a long time coming.
Oh, absolutely.
This needs to get taken care of. We have, I don't care if DCNR philosophically took that away as the gateway to the park. You have evacuation needs.
Right.
I mean, if that place starts flooding, this bridge is the one that's going to get people out of that valley or whatever you want to call it. We can't keep dragging our feet. We've had several historic flooding already. And when I asked them with that new bridge they put in, did you consider Tropical Storm Lee in your calculations? The answer was no. That footbridge is going to flood if we get another Lee. And, we get a 1,000-year flood of biblical proportion, nothing's going to work. But, anything equivalent to Lee, which is entirely possible, they're not going to get out of that valley. They need that bridge. Let's get it done. And you need us to lean on them. I'm willing to lean.
Our technical expert is telling us we want to be able to have a bridge that we can be assured, not only from a safety standpoint, but from long-term, because, once we're done with this shouldn't be coming back on our list. And as Tom said to me several times, once we put the money into this, it should last. It shouldn't be 10 years from now or 15 years from now, we're back to the same point. I think that line of 15 tons rehab to something that Mark is comfortable with is the direction we need to go.
And Commissioner Phillips is in line with this?
Yes.
Okay.
I just don't want your hopes to be too high that this is,
Gonna solve it,
that this is just that what you're saying today, or the advice you're giving today means we're gonna take a couple of quick steps forward.
No, we will probably have to take a step
We
back.
still have
because-
battles to fight, and I'm going to call them battles.
Yeah, a lot.
I'll call it a negotiation. I need to know what our stand in the negotiation is. We are not backing off of, this is our line.
And I
We've
think-
conceded to keeping the bridge. Apart from what we originally said, we're keeping the bridge. We don't like your methodology. We want to be as high a level of certainty that we have basically a new bridge out there. It'll be 60% of the members will be salvaged, will be saved, will be put back in the bridge. we think at this point we can't test the tension members or the bridge will fail. We can't take coupon samples out of members that are holding it up. So we say, take it apart, we'll test the worst one in the shop while it's apart and taken apart, and then we'll see what we have, and maybe we can save more members, but we want to know what we have, and that's the way to do it.
I think what's just as important for these guys to know what you will accept is what you won't accept, because
Right.
when you go into the negotiations or whatever you're gonna, have to do, the table will also have people from the historical perspective.
Sure.
That
Oh,
want it
sure.
to be,
But
and
I
they're
think-
going to want a 5-ton, exactly the way it is, and I think it's important that,
Well, it was.
let me just say, I think what you need to be made clear to PennDOT and all the interested parties here, affected parties, is that you will not accept anything less than 15 tons, because that is pointless.
It
To
seemed
spend
to
$2
agree
million,
with what the
$3 million on something that
Only pickup
won't-
trucks and go
right,
over,
that
yeah.
won't carry the appropriate traffic would be an embarrassment.
Yeah, in fact, a good-sized pickup truck loaded with a trailer behind it
Right.
would exceed
So,
5
yeah,
tons.
so my point being, not just what you're willing to accept, but what you're not willing to accept, so that they can be at the table and say, well, if somebody proposes that will not fly. That
Right.